The ritual is about to begin, the Emperor intoned. Scourge nodded, though even if he had wanted to refuse, it was far too late now. He was standing in the center of a cylindrical metal platform, roughly 2 meters across. Dozens of wires and IV tubes had been hooked to his body. The wires were connected to several generators arranged in a circle around the platform. The IV tubes ran to clear vats filled with a strange green bubbling liquid. They were still inside the Citadel, but this private chamber was much smaller than the throne room. It was unfurnished, and apart from the Emperor, Scourge, and the infernal machinery he was hooked up to, completely empty. In the wake of Revan's defeat, the Emperor hadn't made him a member of the Dark Council after all. Instead, he had created a new position for Scourge, the Emperor's Wrath. The Emperor had believed his explanation about Revan. As a reward, Scourge was to become his personal enforcer and executioner, taking his orders directly from the Emperor and answering to no one but him. That wasn't the full extent of his reward, however. For his role in exposing Xedrix, Nyrus, and Revan, the Emperor had promised to grant Scourge the gift of eternal life. He would forever serve at the Emperor's side, an honor far greater than that even of being selected for the Dark Council. Scourge had eagerly accepted, knowing his new position would give him both time and opportunity to find another way to stop the Emperor before his madness and hunger consumed the galaxy.
Open yourself to the dark side,
the Emperor said, and Scourge felt the air around him begin to swirl with power. Betraying his allies had not altered the inevitable outcome. The Emperor would have won regardless. At least this way Scourge was still alive to carry on their cause. Revan was still alive too, but he was as good as dead to Scourge. The Emperor was holding him prisoner in a secret facility, and Scourge knew he could never risk trying to find its location. He couldn't do anything that might suggest an ongoing connection between him and Revan. Doing so would expose the truth to the Emperor, making his sacrifice of the Jedi pointless.
Let the spark of eternal life ignite within you.
Scourge felt a sharp burst of heat in his chest. He gritted his teeth in pain as the heat grew more intense. He felt no guilt or remorse over what he had done. He knew the Jedi would never have chosen this path, of course. They would have felt the price of betrayal was too high. Scourge knew they were wrong. There was no sense in throwing his life away with theirs. Betrayal was the cost of stopping the Emperor, and he alone had been willing to pay it. Revan had been right about one thing, however. The attack had made the Emperor step back from his plans to invade the Republic. Instead of looking beyond the borders of the Sith Empire, he had turned his attention inward, focusing on restoring stability and control over Dromund Kaas and the other worlds he ruled. The Dark Council would have to be rebuilt. It was inevitable there would be infighting and high turnover in the first few years as the new members vied with one another to curry favor with the Emperor. And he in turn would keep a close eye on the actions of the Council until the plots and schemes returned to a more normal and expected level. It would be several decades, maybe longer, before the Emperor revisited the idea of invading the Republic. In that time, much could happen. Revan had spoken of another champion who would rise. Scourge had seen that champion in his final vision. Blessed with eternal life, Scourge would serve faithfully at the Emperor's side, biding his time as he waited for that champion to emerge from the mists of time. While serving, he would study the Emperor. He would learn everything about him. He would come to understand his strengths and weaknesses so that when the time came, he could help Revan's prophesied champion destroy the Emperor once and for all.
Feel your mortality as it is stripped away.
Scourge screamed as invisible claws tore at his insides, seemingly shredding his vital organs. The heat in his chest had spread to the rest of his body. It felt as if his blood were made of fire. The agony became unbearable, and he shrieked and collapsed to the floor.
The ritual cannot be undone,
the Emperor said, as Scourge writhed and wept at his feet. Through his torment, Scourge realized with dawning horror what the Emperor was saying. The ritual was over, but the searing heat and the rending of his insides continued unabated. Focusing his will, he managed to still the convulsions racking his body. He forced himself to his knees, though every movement seemed to amplify the pain. Trembling, he rose to his feet and addressed the Emperor.
"How long will this anguish last?"
he asked, his jaw clenched.
As time passes, you will learn to accept and endure your suffering. Your mind and body will find ways to deal with the pain. After many months, you will become accustomed enough to it to function in your role as the Emperor's wrath. Eventually, you will simply become numb, unable to feel anything at all.
"Why?"
Scourge asked, his voice something between a sob and a moan.
Everything has a cost. This is the price of immortality.